Yesterday, after the Raiders humiliated the Saints in the Dome, some members of the media got in front of tight end Foster Moreau, and he had some things to say. I'm Tim. Let's talk Saints. So before I start rolling the video, two things. One, sometimes the video itself gets a little sketchy, but the audio has been pretty good. So apologies in advance. And two, I will have to stop it occasionally and might catch him kind of in mid sentence, but we want to make sure we stay on the right side of YouTube's policy as far as showing stuff like this. So, again, apologies in advance. But first, right off the bat, the very first thing that he's basically talking about is accountability, and man, that's a word that's been thrown around a lot by Saints players, coaches, media, fans, and once again, here we are talking about it again.
I feel like you got to be self-confident enough to be self-critical. And if you're coming to the game on Sundays and not performing with a consistency that would merit you being a professional football player, then you have to be self-confident, self-critical, and attack the weaknesses in your routine, attack the weaknesses in yourself. I'll always believe that, and we have to play to the standard that we set early in the off season. And if we don't do that, we're going to hate the product that we put on tape every Sunday.
I mean, he's pretty straightforward there. Talking about accountability. Here we go again. Like I said, it's a word that keeps getting thrown around. But he's kind of starting here, but as he goes on, he's acknowledging the fact that there is none, and he addresses some points on that in the next couple of minutes. There is none, and so you watch him play on Sunday, you watch the game tape, and you realize there's a lot of things going wrong.
Every motivation has to come from within, right? If it's not, you're just you're flying by the seat of your pants. You're playing with false confidence, and that'll show up. I mean,
I do like the way he says that, because sometimes I think we get a little mixed up. Fans, media types, I think players and coaches know what's real and what's not. And that's something probably to bring up, where they always want to talk about the effort, but it goes a little beyond the effort. It goes to the buy-in. It goes to starting with, I want to go out and play well. I want to go out and succeed. I want to give the effort, the self-motivation he's talking about. And even if you're struggling a little bit, you're just having a bad day or whatever, and a coach or another player is getting in your ear trying to get you motivated, or the famous speeches that we hear pregame and at halftime. But I think he has a point. If it's not here originally, even if if there's a fire inside from these players, it's false. It's not going to sustain that player or those group of players or a team or an organization through very rough times. Whether you're talking about a play, a series, a quarter, a half, a game, a season, a decade, whatever, that everybody in the group has to have that desire, that self-motivation. And if it's not there, it's false. It's not going to be something you can build on. It's not something that the players can lean on each other. And I think or the organization can lean on it, or the coaching staff, or whomever. I think he's bringing up a valuable point there. It's all great, rah, rah, rah for the first 5 minutes of the game. But what's really going on over the course of the long haul, so to speak? Are you just getting pumped up when somebody's screaming at you? Are you just being motivated when somebody gives an inspiring speech and it goes away 5 minutes later? Interesting thought that he brings up there on the subject.
If you sweep shit under the rug, like, it's still going to smell like shit.
I mean, ultimately, that's what he's getting to about, accountability and self motivation. Both of them kind of go hand in hand. And you can fool yourself. You can try to fool the fans. You can try to fool the media, the coaches, the GM. The front office can try to fool the players and the coaches and the media. It goes all full circle. But what he said is 100% true. It's going to go on the thumbnail because you can sweep it under the rug, but you can still smell it. You know it's there, even though you don't see it. You haven't fixed or solved any of the problems.
If you're 50% on third downs, you're at the top of the league, right? So it's never going to be perfect, but you have to consistently put out a product that's going to be at least get you to 50%.
This is something I have a saying I've thrown around every now and then. I probably once or twice in the channel you've heard it, but that perfection is the enemy of good. Because a lot of times when you try to be perfect, it's impossible to be perfect, and you jeopardize your chance to actually be good. Whether it's you overanalyze it and nothing happens, paralysis by analysis type thing, or whether you're just always playing it safe, which I think we can all agree at times is the right play, but at times it's not. However, that manifests itself, you can strive for perfection, but you have to accept the reality you're never going to reach it. And if you don't strive for it, and then you also don't acknowledge it's not going to happen, I think that's where the real problems come in. And with him talking about that, when I heard him say that, I kind of wonder where it's like, where do the majority of the people in our organization fall into that? And do they fall into the second? He goes a little further, the second part that he talks about.
Right? That's all we're asking. Just give us everything you have. And you know what? Even sometimes that's not going to be enough.
Even sometimes that's not going to be enough. I'm going to raise my hand once as a fan on some of the stuff he's talking about. Sometimes I can be hard on the teams I root for. I guess it's part of being fans, short for fanatic, but not realizing that statement is true. That sometimes everybody could be giving their all and it's just not enough. Not that I'm saying that should make you happy or enthused, but it is a truth that sometimes we don't acknowledge. Really simply put, sometimes the other team's just better. Sometimes the other coach is just better. Sometimes stuff happens that they just make the one extra play they make to beat you. And it sucks and you can get upset about it, but I think you also have to acknowledge the reality of what he's saying and about what he's about ready to say.
Right? Um, it's like it's all about consistency and persistence, right? You have to fail 1,000 times to succeed only once, right? If the man that has never reached success has not failed enough. That's all it is. And I mean, we got a lot of failing going on right now. That's fucking blatantly obvious. But you have to be a man enough to get off the ground and fight for the person beside you. Don't fight for yourself. That's empty. Fight for something bigger than yourself, because that's where you really get special people and special players.
And it's about being unselfish, is what I'm reading in that he's exactly talking about this. Look, you can strive for perfection. We need you to give 100%, with the reality being that if 50% of it works out, that's good in the NFL. That's where we're going to need to be, like 50% on third down. In other areas, it won't. 50%, 500. Yeah, that's not going to get you where you want to go. And you're going to fail. And as he said, there's a whole lot of effing failing going around lately. But the key is, and will this team, this organization, whoever comes in to coach it, whatever changes are being made, whatever players get turned over in the roster, purge, are you going to get the right guys that are going to come in and go, hey, they're giving their all. They understand what the stakes are. They understand that, look, failure is just part of it. And if you, you have to learn from it, you have to pick yourself up, dust yourself off. And you're not always doing it for yourself. You're doing it for the team, for the organization, for the fans, for the city, uh, for the state, for the region, whatever. And a lot of times, players and coaches and organizations talk about that. And sometimes, going back to his earlier one, and when he's talking about motivation, sometimes it's false and it's not real. It's not helping, and nobody's buying into it. Sometimes it is. You've seen teams do some really special stuff. I think he's got a point. I think there's a lot of, you know, I blame front office personnel for some of the gaslighting and just BS that they're throwing around out there. But listen to him talk. I'm getting the impression for him, it's more than just management and coaching. I think he gets a little deeper into that sentiment here in a second.
There's plenty of the fan base that wants us to lose so we can get a better draft pick. Like, I'm not.
Second time I got to call myself out. Yes, I'm at that point, and I'm not proud of it. I mentioned it, but that's just one of the ways I am trying to make the best of this situation that I can make. But I think I've acknowledged in the video too that um, they wanting to fight and keep winning, and that's exactly what he's about ready to talk about. Is an acknowledgement that even if it happens, say we'd have won yesterday and we upset Tampa on Sunday and get 7 wins and slide up the draft order, whatever, that has value. That wouldn't have aggravated me, and that's something I don't think you should be ashamed of or necessarily root against. I just take it like what he's talking about, that I never got to a high level of positivity in the game yesterday while I'm sitting in the dome watching it, because deep down in the back of my head, I knew, well, that's a player or two better that we're going to be able to, should be able to bring in the first round of 2025. That's going to help fix a lot of the problems, hopefully, that he's addressing and talking about now. And word to the warning, he gets a little worked up again here in a second, and honestly, I can't blame him.
I'm not blind to that. Like, I see that, and that's, I mean, they could think that all they want, but people have to play for their, people have to play with passion, they have to play with pride, and they have to play for each other, and they have to play for their jobs. Like, you have to play because this is, this is your resume. And I fucking hate talking about resumes. I hate the man that's talking about their resume is out of a damn job.
Couldn't agree more. And I never really thought about it. Um, I had been saying down this stretch, again, fan error right here. But until he said it, I didn't even realize I was promoting the wrong thing on this channel, saying, hey, get these players out there on the field, because they're playing for their jobs. They're trying to pad their resume, even if they're not going to be here, if they want to go somewhere else. And I'm going, well, he's exactly right. That's the wrong take. This goes back to to what he was saying earlier about something bigger than him, playing for something bigger than yourself. And playing the resume or playing to keep your job. I mean, to a certain degree, you're going to do that. But if that's your only intent out there, I think the point he's trying to make, and the point that I missed when I was talking about this the last few weeks, is A, it's not helping anything. B, you're going to see if that's what's going on, that he's kind of, I'm inferring from these comments he's referring to it happening now. It explains an awful lot about the shit show we saw yesterday, doesn't it? And even though it may get swept under the rug, we can still smell it. We know it's there.
Like, that's a fact. So, like, you could think about your resume all you want, but in reality, you got to play for pride, and you got to play for not only the name on the back, but the name on the front and the logo on the side of your damn helmet. That's a fact. And I'd love to see us get back to doing that.
I mean, that's almost a cliche right now, right? It's not about the name on the back; it's about the name on the front of the jersey. I like the way he threw in the logo on the side of the helmet. That's the first time I've heard that, but we've heard it an awful lot over the years, and it's become kind of a cliche, and it's almost like a joke. It seems like when you see, not to get into the nuts and bolts of it, but when you see players and athletes do certain things, and the people in the media or fans come out and say, "Hey, you're just being selfish. You screwed your team over, whatever," and other people in the media and other fans defending them. And you're listening to what he's talking about and going, "Can you be that way and win? Be successful? Maybe." Could you be that way and win and be successful over season after season, a long period of time to help your organization? Got a kind of question mark. Don't really know. But I think what he's saying is if all you're worried about is your brand or this or that, and not being what he's promoting here as saying, got to be bigger than yourself. It's got to be part of the effort. You got to give 100%. You got to recognize you're going to fail. You got to recognize we may be striving for perfection, but we're not going to reach it. And what can we do to get better so we can avoid being bad, being what we are now? I think he's talking about players mostly. He's not referencing anything else. But as I was watching this and going through it, I'm just sitting here going, that applies, I think, everywhere from Miss Gale at the top of the organization as owner, all the way down to the crew that comes in and cleans up the locker room and launders the towels or whatever. I think there's a philosophy here that we used to have that is deteriorated out. Other teams have it. Other teams don't. And as he's kind of pointing this out and just kind of looking around, these organizations, you probably sit here and take all 32 teams in the NFL and figure out without much discussion which category each team goes in.
And there's look, you could, work smart, not hard is not something I believe in. You have to work your balls off. You have to work as hard as you possibly can just to have a chance in this league. Just to have a chance in life, you got to work tirelessly, right? That's what I believe. And if you work hard enough, eventually you'll get smart. But
And I like the way he ended that, in the sense that is an expression, and I've used it myself. Hey, work smarter, not harder. Um, and it's typically I've used it, for instance, um, doing some work like in the backyard, kind of thinking about it and going, well, it'd be easier to do it this way, but I still have to put in the work, right? When you're playing football, when it's something that physical, I kind of get what he's drawing at there. It's like, in listening to some of the stuff in the push and pull of what the coaching staff and the players have kind of been going through this year, that there's a little bit of, there was comments made about TG when he moved on. It's like, yeah, well, it's nicer to play for a guy who played in the league that kind of cuts us loose instead of the always worried about the X's and O's. Is that too much emphasis on smart, not enough on harder? The way they do things, the way the organization wants to do things, the way it's handed down, because everything's going to come from top down. And is it more about, well, we think we're smarter and we're doing this the smart way, but it just may be the answer is smart doesn't help enough. We've got to put in the hard work that he's talking about. Look, he's been in the league for a little while now. He's no spring chicken by any stretch. And I think he knows not only he could be one that, you know, won't be here in 2025. And he knows that he's getting to the point where he's not going to have many years left in the league. So I appreciate the honesty, because he could easily say, hey, I need to be more worried about me and my resume, because they may not bring me back. They can cut me in the off season. They actually save money by doing so. They may ask me to take a pay cut to stay if I want to do that, or I got to go find a job somewhere else in the NFL if I want to keep playing, and then thinking about the resume. And I got to do this the smart way. I got to make sure, whatever this was, it really in the best interest of the organization, or was it the best interest to go out and play as hard as you can, try to win the game? It's a lot of stuff he said over a very short period of time, and I did edit down. He goes into a little more detail in each of these, but it's one of those things you just stop and think. And the two things that come to my mind is, again, the two categories. How many players, and especially the leadership on the team, and then how many coaches and how many front office people and are thinking like he's thinking in that category, and how many's somewhere else, let's just say, about their thinking, their thought process on what they're trying to accomplish. This is going on, and you're going to have a new coach come in, possibly partly or possibly a whole new coaching staff. Don't really know. Don't really know what's going to happen in the front office. But I got to tell you, these are the kind of things that whoever comes in to do these jobs, or whoever stays, and whether they haven't been doing this enough and getting this message out of there, I think a lot of the things he talks about, the culture that you wanted to have, that you used to have, is in those details, and we're just not doing it anymore. So, slight rant on my part, a little more of a rant on his part, but I think it's well deserved. I think it's well thought out, whether that was off the cuff for him or if this has been on his mind for a while and he finally got an opportunity to say it, or somewhere in between. But it is something that I think every, even fans, I'm talking to Miss Gale through the all the way through the organization, but even all the way through the fan base. It, there's some food for thought in there that we probably really should all be thinking about. Big shout out to NOF YouTube. They had the clip of that. That was the only way I found it there. I didn't see it anywhere else, of this interview. And like I said, I think I've cut it down to 3 or 2 minutes, something like that. It was a little over 5. Go catch it if you can. Is he expounds on some stuff, a little beyond than what we just covered. I just kind of clicked the high points. So it's a new year. I'm looking at that going, if a organization and a team and an ownership and a coaching staff and players and fan base and everything all involved with the New Orleans Saints wants to have a New Year's resolution, I think we can dig deep into some of the stuff Foster Moreau is talking about and going, he's right. Maybe we need to rethink this, do a little better. Yeah. We're all in it together. It's going to be a bit of a long haul starting in 2025. So hopefully we can just get it all off on the right foot. So speaking of 2025, there's only like a day and a half left of it now. So this will be the last time you see me until 2025. So wish all of y'all a very safe and happy new year. Yeah. Give me a thumbs up for celebrating safe. And then everybody's getting back to work. And by that, I mean, as Saints fans, as the organization, everything else come the second, and push this all forward. If your first time here, please hit a subscribe for me, hit a like, share it with your friends, drop some comments below. It's all the stuff that the YouTube algorithm likes so much. And recap on the rest of the week, probably have something hidden after the first. So this is technically the last video of 2024. And then we'll be live Sunday for the season finale post game for the Saints Tampa Bay game, and we'll see how all that shakes out. So till I see you next time, I'm Tim. Peace out, and who dat?